Okay.
Hello.
So we decided on the first 3 videos, the 4-minute one, the commercial, and the whack video and the nurse video, correct? That's what everybody watched?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't you think the videos, I just think they're so funny the way that they just seem so formal and elegant.
I thought the first two, the big picture ones,
Mm-hmm.
the big picture, what was it, 277 and 290?
Mm-hmm.
They reminded me, they seemed to be like recruitment videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what they're meant to be, but the first one explained it that at first I thought it was going to be some sort of news thing because that's what it sounded like.
Right.
Like describe it as letting people know what's going on overseas and stuff. But then it was like almost like an infomercial for the WAC and um, the Army nurses.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of talk about that with my my conversation starter because with my and I don't know if we're running in order or not, but I mean it's basically like what we're talking about right now. But I pulled some quotes from all of the videos, and I think one particular quote from the first the big picture movie was basically that they are attempting to appeal to these women and like convincing them, like you guys said, to kind of like join them and also telling them what they want to hear. First video, I got the quote, I got the quote, one form of exercise, sometimes called drudgery or wash day blues by housewives, which has been cut to a minimum at the center, is the whack laundry problem. Every dormitory boasts its own laundromat and ironing facilities. No scrubbing, no rubbing. They let the machines do it. So I think that this is just one of those small examples, but it's relevant because it's basically stating that this is a problem that housewives have. And since you chose or you're choosing to not do that or to not be a housewife and join WAC, then this is a benefit to you. So I feel like,
Yes.
yeah, they're saying like, this is like, you don't have to do this. Like, and I guess from like seeing the advertisements, like all throughout and how the woman is standing and the man is sitting. And I guess they feel like women are probably tired of that. And so this will appeal to them more.
I thought that as well, but kind of differently. That same kind of quote, they're still, while they're recognizing that not all women want to do housework and be domestic, they're still trying to appeal to that a lot, I think, because that's what most women were doing. Like, oh, you can still do laundry in the nurses core. You can still, because it talks about how important your outfit is. In both of the videos mention that, and that feminine grace in the whack video. And one quote that I pulled out was that a chance at an interesting and attractive Army job. That's what women were being given, but I didn't really realize that the Army was like attractive and interesting, you know? Like that's supposed to be rough and tumble and
yeah.
Like why were women being given the easy jobs or the attractive jobs? Why you still have to treat them differently?
And then that also makes me think about that part in the I think it was in the first one, or it might have been in the second one, where they were talking about them going to the salon, and then like they keep up with the style, I guess, of like, but everyone has the same hairstyle.
And then they all their outfits are designed by fashion designers. They're
yes. And then I'm thinking like you have to be fashionable to like to do this. So I actually agree with you. Yeah, I feel like it's not so far removed from the housewife. Yeah, I agree.
Well, that and then also just the way that they portray women. In the first like 2 minutes, in the WAC video, you see them kind of running and walking out in a haphazard fashion. You know, they're not lined up straight like you would expect a group of men in the Army to be marching. And then 5 minutes later, they also show women again running outside in a disorderly fashion. And I feel like a men's Army training video would not show that. They would show them being tough and strong and disciplined. And this almost makes women seem like stupid and incapable, you know?
That video almost reminded me that they were taking home ec, a glorified version of home ec.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it does mention in the nurse's video that the first thing that you need to be concerned with is a proper outfit. Just like in the first video, that's at 3 minutes. And the only difference that I picked up on was actually in the nurse's video, it does mention utility instead of fashion. Like it's still an Army uniform.
Right.
So it still has to be versatile and useful to women in the Army, but the WAC video didn't mention that at all.
I think another quote that I pulled out was actually talking about women's freedom in the second video with the Army Nurse Corps, and basically he was saying that a woman commissioned in the Army Nurse Corps finds out very soon that she is a part of an organization which regards her as a woman first, then a member of her profession. And
Yes.
it's basically saying like she's given the time to develop interest and enthusiasm, like to kind of observe the world around her.
Like a vacation.
Yeah, like and I didn't think about it like that until you just said it. It's like you don't really have to do much. You just explore.
And it even mentioned women shopping at one point. Which
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
I don't think the textbook, that it might have mentioned this and I just missed it. These women weren't like in active duty. That wasn't even allowed back then, but you would think they would be doing a little more than just shopping and traveling the world, you know? Like the nurses video showed more of that, of them actually doing work and explaining that there was work to do all the time, but the Women's Auxiliary Corps didn't mention much of that, I didn't think.
I think the one thing that I pulled from the book, I guess to make a connection between the videos and the book, was it was in chapter 9 when it was talking about how many people how many women actually wanted to be recruited into WAC, and it was 140,000. And I mean now I kind of see why, because it seems like a really glamorous, or at least the videos made it seem as though like you get your hair done, you can explore, like you just kind of do whatever you want to, and it really didn't even seem like an Army type situation.
Well, I know the videos are just trying to entice women to join, but
Sort of like propaganda.
it could be exaggerated slightly, but they still don't have the same expectations from women that they would from men in the Army, you know? Okay, what about, did you guys see any connection between those two videos and the commercial that we watched? The 4-minute commercial?
Well, I noticed that, I mean, they were all geared towards women. And, I mean, because the third video, the Eisenhower-Nixon campaign commercial, basically like propaganda to get get women to vote for him. And, I mean, I think it was at 3 minutes, it mentions that the role of women as homemakers, and reiterating the female stereotypes, and the importance of voting for him. Why, if you're a woman, you should vote for him. I mean,
Well, it also mentions at the beginning, it talks about things that women are thinking about. And the video made it seem like, oh, well, of course women are thinking about just their family and the cost of living and things that have to do with the domestic sphere. Contradicts the video, the other two videos, because in those they're encouraging women to think about their country as a whole and serving the nation and thinking about ideas beyond.
Yeah, I can see that contradiction there.
That's definitely one way they're different. But another,
like, on the question, the starter number 12. The thing I was confused about is how, I don't know, it was because one is, for women, like the first video, the episode 277 was, geared towards trying to recruit women into this. And down here in the Eisenhower commercial, there was never mind. I've lost my train of thought. Hold on, let me gather my thoughts. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I forgot where I was going with that. It's the problem with ADHD. Anyway, I'll get to it in a little bit.
Well, was your question like, the difference in what the videos encouraged? Is that what you're getting at? Like kind of what we were talking about earlier?
It's like in that first video, it mentioned that marriage was not encouraged. But then you go on to the Nixon video and there's the woman, all those women that are talking. It all has to do with the family atmosphere, the role of family. And there was the one woman at 1 minute and 40 seconds in episode 277 that referred to herself as a future homemaker and wife. So to me, that sounds like a little bit of a contradiction. So yeah, it was a little confusing for me.
Well, I think
probably why I can't.
I think that the two big picture films that we watched, they were just more subtle about the way that they emphasize a woman's role in the home. Because even when the nurses were taking care of patients, they encouraged them to be motherly and emphasize their maternal instincts and how important that was to making people feel better. And it was almost as important as the medicine itself. So it mentions that and that aspect of mothering. And there are women that talk about their husbands and how they do want to be homemakers, like you said. So I think the two videos are just more subtle about the way that they target women. And then the campaign video is obviously like outward about, hey, women, go and vote. One thing that I was confused about was the fact that when I was reading about the WAC in the book, I don't remember reading about their specific duties. And it seemed like the nurses corps had, at least the video made it seem like that group had a stronger hold on what their responsibilities were and had more to do than the women's auxiliary corps. And they talked about in the nurses video they went overseas and everything, but I don't remember the WAC video mentioning exactly what it was that the women's corps did.
I actually had a discussion about this with my best friend, her dad was in World War II.
Hmm.
And they would actually type up, like, when someone was killed, the letter to the family, and they would deliver a letter. I don't know how they do it now. I think somebody actually comes to the door. But they did stuff like that, and it was a lot of basically bookkeeping
And clerical,
and stuff like
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that in the book it does talk a little bit, but it doesn't say exactly if they were whack women. But it does talk about how it was still clerical work that they were actually doing.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice also?
I mean, it was an important job. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't allow women to go fight, so that left, used to men would do the stuff that, these women did, and that freed up the men to do
When they needed them so badly.
the dirty work. So, I mean, it was
Well, they needed all the men that they could get.
right.
And American men fought. But did you notice that I only remember seeing one woman of color out of like both videos, like
Yeah.
doing black stuff or as a nurse. There might have been like one for each video that I actually saw, but the majority of women were white.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was interesting.
That was interesting.
Because you would think if you really truly need the help that bad, then you would want to recruit as many people as possible,
You would think. I mean,
But I guess segregation really. You don't think about how entrenched it was, but
yeah. Yeah. It really did show how far we've come since, it really makes you appreciate how far in the military. I mean, they just recently, in the last year or two, been able to join the infantry.
yes, that was like last year, I think.
The
When you
infantry
also notice
usually the
in
first
the
one in.
Nixon campaign video, in that whole 4 minutes, there was no real discussion on policy. All of the women gave very vague answers, like, "Oh, he is a God-fearing man," or "Oh, he seems like a nice man," and
Yeah,
people are much more willing to trust a president, but just based on what they thought of him.
right.
And they gave no actual like, well, he does this, this, and this for the economy, or I like his stance on this. Yeah, he seems like a great guy, so you should vote for him.
Yeah.
But do you think, is that just how commercials will be done, or is that specifically because it was a commercial for women? Like, would a man's commercial mention all these things because they think men would think about that, or?
That almost made me think, just a brief thought, that maybe they really didn't feel women needed to know about policies. They didn't discuss anything about policies in that video.
And they just want the vote.
They just,
I think over all three of the videos that we watched, I think like Rebecca, you said in the very beginning, I think it makes women seem like handle it, but it's like we probably just shouldn't tell them this, or this is what you should know about WAC, and this is what you should know about voting, and this is what you should say for the video. So I do feel like it's more so about just kind of keeping women in the dark. But also, I do wonder about the male army videos and the difference between, I guess, whack in their videos. And I mean, I'm sure it would be like vastly different, but as well as like you said, Rebecca, when talking about Eisenhower, like I'm sure they would talk about policy and talk about, you know, the economy and all that. So I do feel like it was probably deliberate to have the women say like, oh, he's a good man, or, you know, and not actually say what it really is.
Right.
Well, does anybody have any last thoughts they want to contribute?
I think I'm good.
Good. Sarah, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop this. So I guess we'll figure out which day we want to do our next video next week sometime.
Is there another one?
All right.
I think there's one more.
Okay.
A few more.
And don't we meet for like a final project?
I don't know if that's a group project or individual. I haven't looked at it yet.
Me either.
Okay. Well, see you guys next week then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.